Good morning, everyone. It is Saturday, February 7th, 2026. I'm back at the Loran Campground over in the Evangeline District of Kisatchie National Forest. Today I'm going to be hiking a couple of alternate options to the Camp Claiborne loop of the Heber Kisatchie Trail. If you didn't watch that video, you probably want to go check that one out first. So I'll explain what I'm doing today. Basically, when I had finished that loop, I was not able to complete it as planned. And it was because we were on the Boy Scout trail system, which serves as the southern part of the loop. So after going back and reviewing it, I decided that really the best and safest option for those that aren't familiar with that system is to utilize a different path to get back here. So I'm gonna explain a couple of things on my way out of here. And I'm going to show you two alternate routes today that you can take, basically starting at the Melder campground. So we're about to get started. All right, when we had started the Camp Claiborne loop last time, there's a couple of ways to get to it. Straight ahead, you can see the sign. And there's a couple of more ways to go northbound on the loop. And basically you're going to be on the North Claiborne loop. But what we're going to do is we're going to follow along right here. I'm going to go southbound. So if you decide to start the Camp Claiborne loop in the opposite direction, you're going to follow along this way. Now, I did show this about a year ago when I covered this as part of the Bayou State Trail on day number 19. So I'm not going to refilm all this, but I'm going to show you where I'm going to turn off today from that route that's going to take us over towards the Melder campground. We're about a mile in. Last time I came out as part of the Bayou State Trail, we went to the left and it goes a little ways and then crosses across Louisiana Highway 112. But this loop actually is going to go to the right, or this part of the loop I should say. Highway 112 is in this direction. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow this, and it should take us close, about a mile from here, to the Melder camp. I wanted to show a couple of slides ago those red diamonds that were marked. So this is all part of the North Claiborne loop, just so you know. We were technically on the beginning of the Boy Scout loop when we left Loran, but when we shifted to the right back there, that was now back on the North Claiborne loop. I spotted a couple other trails that aren't on any of my maps a little while ago. I was looking at my Onyx Hunt and my All Trails, and in between Loran and that junction when I took a right, it had me off of the actual route of the trail. So it was probably rerouted at some point. But if you're trying to follow an app and you feel like you're a little too far off to the west in that section, don't worry about it. It's going to start turning more to the southeast and east, where it's going to bring you back closer to the road that runs you from Highway 112 to the Loran campground. So don't worry about it. But just wanted to point those things out, and we're really not that far now from reaching the exit from this over to the Melder campground. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that here in a little while. Now a couple of miles in, and this is where you would come in if you stayed on the trail, coming from if you watch the video, of course. It was at that pumping station. We took a gravel road and we then turned on the trail. This one, and then there's a horse trail. I think they run parallel, but either way, you end up back in this direction. And this is where you want to turn off right here, as we're just a few feet away from Louisiana Highway 112, and we're going to cross over to Addis Melder Road. I'm just leaving the Melder campsite now. According to my map, it was only about 2.5 miles from Loran Campground to here. So this is where we had finished day 1 of the Camp Claiborne loop. And now I'm making my way along this old military road on my way out of the Melder campground area. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. There's 2 options to keep this loop a lot shorter, where we're going to start making our way back to the Loran campground. Just a short distance down from the Melder campground, you have 2 options. You can go this way along this part of the Boy Scout loop, and it's just going to eventually turn right and wiggle waggle and follow along Louisiana Highway 112. And I want to point out now, this is where we passed last time. I'm cutting this part off, but I will explain to you at the end of this video how you can make that work. But instead of just all the wiggle waggle, I'm just going to go ahead and stay straight on this military road. We're about a mile in from the Melder campground area. That's the road I just showed. And I'll talk more about it at the end of the video, but you can follow the Boy Scout loop that I showed earlier a little ways and end up coming back this way. But we're getting off this military road, and you can see straight ahead, right there, yellow and orange blazes. We're now back on the main route of the Boy Scout loop, and we're now starting to head our way back to Louisiana Highway 112. As you just saw, I took a picture of that old structure from what was once part of Camp Claiborne. So now we're back on the route that we took as part of the Bayou State Trail on day number 19. We're just going down the opposite direction. So we're making our way back over to the Loran Campground, and I'm going to go ahead and point out where you need to pass. when we come up to another junction, that would just circle you back to where we walked this morning, just to keep it from getting confusing for some of you. But really, you do need to check out the Camp Claiborne Loop video for this all to make sense. So I can hear the traffic now on Louisiana Highway 112, fixing to cross that, and then follow back to where we split off this morning. All right, we're up to a junction right here. I didn't take this one, but that does go back towards Highway 112 as well, but it doesn't run you right up to the Melder Campground area. So we're going to continue to the right. All right, this is where we turned off earlier this morning to go towards the Melder Campground. And now we're gonna go straight, here to our right. Now I'm double backing back to the Loran Campground, which is a little over a mile away. I'm still filming because I realized I came back a different way. This is where I came from, this way. That stretch goes closer to the forest road that takes you from Highway 112 over to Loran. I went this way this morning, which was also what we did on day 19 of the Bayou State Trail. So I know we need to go right to make it back to Loran. So basically, that's what this sign indicates, that if you go left, I mean, you can go straight too, but definitely go left. It's part of the Boy Scout loop. But this just goes to show this whole Camp Claiborne area is the Bermuda Triangle for hiking, particularly the Boy Scout loop section. So I'm just a few minutes away from Loran Campground, and when I get there, I'll give you my thoughts on today's hike. I'm hanging out here at the Loran Campground, and I just wanted to give you my thoughts on this alternate for the Camp Claiborne loop. It was better than what we experienced the last time we were trying to finish it. Of course, I was trying to show it since I started at Loran in either direction. So when I started this morning, if you decide to travel the loop clockwise, that's the way you want to go to get over to the Melder Campground. Now, of course, when you go back to the Camp Claiborne video I filmed 2 years ago, we were coming back the other way. And that trail that I turned off of to be able to jump across 112, you would be coming back in that direction. Of course, we didn't show that either because there was a lot of switchbacks, but that was a horse trail. And this just leads to why you really need to come out here and navigate all this before you try to hike it. The trail that I was pointing out that you could stay on is not the same one that we took coming back from that water pump station. We had crossed it on the forest road right before we got to the horse trail. So I would say just stay on that one. All Trails does have the Woodworth Loop, so you could follow that, and that'll be real helpful. Now, after I left Melder and I showed you where the Boy Scout loop continued. To the right is what we used last time. What I discovered was, if at the end when we doubled back and we realized that we weren't on the original trail in the first place and doubled back to where we had started near the Melder campground, what I discovered was that forest road that we had turned on, had we stayed on that and kept going straight, we would have run into that military road that I pointed out to you right before I got to the old structure of Camp Claiborne near Highway 112. So if I would have continued on the way I'd hiked it last time from Melder, it would have been probably about 3.5 miles to get back to Camp Claiborne. Now, of course, I'd followed a different route on the way back. The two that I hiked this morning, coming out of Loran, coming out and going in, they just run parallel. So at some point, I must have just stayed to the right. But either way, you could take either one and it'll get you to that section that'll bring you along Highway 112 back towards Melder. But that's why I say investigate this area. This is a great place to come hiking. I really enjoy coming out here every time, and it's more exciting that I get to know this area a little bit more, so it's really a matter of investigating. But I am going to post on this channel the map of the alternate of the Camp Claiborne loop area. And of course, again, if you want to extend it along the Boy Scout loop, you can do that. But again, I would definitely investigate that area because that's more confusing than the North Claiborne area. And I hadn't even gotten to the Woodworth loop, which is to the east of here. And I'm eventually come out in the next year or two and do some of that. So these alternates for the Camp Claiborne loop are probably not over with. But for now, I think this is the best route to take, where it's less confusing and it's very enjoyable. You can pretty much do it in one day based upon the way I've modified it. But of course, if you want to stretch it out into two, I would just say camp out over here at the Loran campground and just park at the Melder campground. Be a short walk into Loran, and then you can just continue on the loop going counterclockwise and make your way back over to the Melder campground. So that concludes today's hike. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon on another Louisiana trail.